at the stage. My little avatar there. But there I am. I will not be appearing on camera this evening because we have a lot of work to do, a lot of debunking, as the French may say. Yes, 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 we are venturing into French history this evening, or supposed French history. Okay, so I'm looking at the comments. Press 1 in the chat if you're here and you can hear me. Let me know if I'm coming through. If I'm not getting any responses, I'm assuming that people can't hear me and we have problems. And so I do not commence. So I need to know, I need some feedback. Whoo! All right. One, much respect, says Cannon Kenton. Ben Cannon Kenton. 479. Hello, Ben. Your name is slightly unfamiliar, but it's good to see you here. J Pierre 5877 says peace and love right back at you, brother. I'm assuming you're a brother. We have salutations, beautiful people, from Reported Stolen. Gigi Squalling says, how are you all doing on this merry afternoon, my distinguished gentle people? Yes, yes, indeed. You're not doing too bad. I'm not doing too bad. I can only speak for myself. I can only speak for myself. Okay, but wait for a few more people to join us. If indeed there will be a few more people. I had the pleasure this earlier today of watching the great work of Kapruki. So if you, I mean, by now a lot of the people watching me should know who Kapruki is, but if you don't, Kaprooki, Kaprooki. Um, yeah, great channel, great content. Um, I believe one to watch, an individual to watch. Um, even if he stays anonymous. But he is an absolute legend. And he released a video a day or two ago, and he's come out with a part two, and it's talking about Afrocentrism. What actually is it? And what do we mean by Afrocentrism? That word has been maligned by the usual suspects. But what does it actually mean? Um, and it's a two-parter. It might be a three-parter. We wait and see. It might be a trilogy. But part two came out today, and I was watching it earlier, and I featured in part one and part two. And I'm not gonna lie, um, I like the cut of my own jib. What can man say? I liked it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah, I featured in it. Some other real big hitters were in it. We had the King's Monologue. Um, we had Professor Onya Kanubia, an actual professor here in the United Kingdom. And part two is out now. So, fam, whenever you can, excuse me, whenever you can, uh, I would say drop this live as soon as it finishes, as soon as it ends. Not now, not now. Barely about 20 people in here. So you'll just chill. But as soon as this live ends, go over to Kapruki's channel and check out both parts on Afrocentrism. The second part, which came out today, is amazing. Absolutely amazing. and Professor Onyekanubia and the King's Monologue are featuring in it, and they're spitting bars. Let's just put it that way. They are talking some real dropping some real knowledge. So give your brother a what do we say? Give him some views, give him some likes, hype his content. Is that live in the UK? Hyping content? I don't know because people talk about it, and typically on American channels or America-based channels. But I don't know how you hype something here in the UK. So, whatever, do that if you can. But yeah, I dropped a post earlier today about what did I say earlier today? Let's have a look. Let's see if I can share my screen. I am well and truly, um, if it can be termed as such, well and truly pissed. I am pissed. Yes, I am pissed because I saw this news earlier today. Let me share my screen, family. You see what I'm talking about. I saw this news earlier today, and I was not happy. I was not happy at all. All right, let's see if we can do it. Probably not popular. I don't know that it would be popular, but a popular opinion. But I posted it anyway. Here we go. Okay, here we are. So images 2 and 4 could have been us. What's images 2 and 4? Boom. UEFA agrees to boycott FIFA. Um, so basically, FIFA under Infantino, they want to sell off. They want to make the World Cup a fully privatized. excuse me, fully privatized venture. All right, let's get kicking. Let's get started properly. And now UEFA saying no, this is unacceptable, and the World Cup FIFA is not, football is not for sale like that. So we have a situation now where FIFA's UEFA, the European body that governs soccer or football, as it should be properly called, are saying that um they're gonna boycott Infantino's FIFA if these plans go ahead, and European footballing bodies will not be in the next World Cup, which I believe is in shared between Portugal and Morocco. But here's my thing: this could have been us. If this does happen, which it won't, because either UEFA will compromise, or let's not be naive about it, UEFA will find a compromise, and Infantino slash I don't know. We live in this weird world right now where uh Trump is also in charge of FIFA, but if regardless of the fact that you know um Americans don't watch football like that or soccer, man. But yeah, it is what it is. They want to sell off FIFA and sell stocks or shares in it or something, make it kind of like a franchise. Anyway, UEFA saying we're going to boycott it, but we could have done this. We could have said for much more important issues like black players from Africa and other places, the Caribbean, turning up in America in Trump's MAGA America and being stop searched at the airport by ICE as if they were criminals, as if they were terrorists. We could have said, "Do you know what? Big man move. We're not doing this. We are not partaking in a World Cup where black people are treated like criminals." So that could have been, we could have actually shown the world on a stage like this. We could have shown the world that we have power and we're willing to use that power. And black players and African players will not partake in such a sham. But we didn't. Instead, we all went to the World Cup. Um, African and Africa as a continent completely got walked all over. You should the decisions against um the teams in some of the games were completely abysmal. It was disgraceful. The shenanigans that were going on. But yeah, I mean, we got outright cheated out of some of the games. Um, Same as usual, same as usual. But we had a moment. History was waiting for us to act. I don't know. I'm frustrated by the whole thing. And now, UEFA gets the limelight. This European body of soccer gets the limelight as if it's some paragon of righteousness. It wasn't long ago that UEFA as a sporting body was trying to sell off football here as well. They were trying to restructure uh the main um the main European competition, the main sporting competition in Europe. Uh, as far as football goes, they're trying to sell it off. So they're not a paragon of virtue when it comes to the sport of football. But I don't understand why at crucial junctions I don't know. Crucial junctions, we just get sidetracked. We don't come together like we should. JPA is gonna get blocked straight away. This is my show, so I mean, I don't know what you're doing here. Off you go. You can go and sleep on your own. If I'm boring you, we are barely 15 minutes in. We're not even 15 minutes in, so I don't know what you think this is, but bye bye. I'm making you sleep. Some troll. Anyway, so housekeeping. Make sure you check out Kapruki's thing. Make sure you check out his video on Kapruki really is. I really wish him the best. I wish his channel the best, and I think his content is the kind of stuff that we need out there. We really need his content out there because he's in some amazing work. So right after this live is done, um, please head over to Kapruki's thing, Kapruki's channel, and check out his recent posts. He's been on a hiatus for a long while, uh, and those who know him privately know why that is. But yeah, yeah, okay, right. We got a few people in the house. Um, Let me show you why we're here. Let me show us why we're here. So yeah, I don't know, chat. Let me know what you think about that. Who watched the World Cup? Who actually watched the World Cup? What did you think about the whole thing? I mean, were you disappointed? Were you actually pleasantly surprised by what went on? I don't know, man. I didn't watch one game. I didn't watch one block of 90 minutes, not one. But and I'm glad I didn't because by all reports it was a sham anyway. It was really corrupt and awful. But I'm gonna present something else on the screen right now. So I put out another post recently, and it was just in preparation for this live. I made a video not long ago about a fellow called Bertrand du Guesclin. Now, shout out to the debunker. The debunker put me onto Bertrand du Guesclin, France's greatest knight, a 14th century historical figure from France. Now, when you look up Bertrand du Guesclin on YouTube, on search engines, images that typically come back, and information that typically comes back, um, don't surprise you. This is French history, of course. It's a white guy, but the debunker put me onto something, and That something being the fact that Du Guesclin was a black man. When I saw this, I thought, well, okay, well, maybe there are um maybe there's conjecture, but we're not talking conjecture. Um, and I made a video about it after reviewing the evidence that the debunker sent me. After checking and cross-checking, cross-referencing, and confirming, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The greatest, I think, if you know anything about French history, which I'm not professing to be an expert on, but if you know anything about French history, um, Du Guesclin is basically the King Arthur of French history. The difference being that Du Guesclin was a real historical figure. We're talking um, a real life um King Arthur, actual action hero figure. Okay, this guy was a complete savage, no no pun intended. Okay, but completely whitewashed. Completely whitewashed. So I looked into it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I made a video not long ago. The video didn't get much play as I wanted it to. I am a small channel, but we've done bigger numbers on the channel before. And I was really hoping that, it would catch fire. Now, I'm not gonna go down the route of YouTube suppressing my content. He's not a Du Guesclin is not a figure that he isn't a King Arthur. For better or for worse, he's not known. So that content was only unless I was a bigger channel with a bigger reach, it was never gonna do that many numbers. Now there are French channels out there with quite big numbers on Du Guesclin, but that is kind of to be expected. They're operating out of France, so I don't know. The algorithm probably targets you know sends their information, their content, the way of many French speaking peoples and many French people themselves. So it's got that base to sort of leapfrog off. Now mine didn't do anywhere near as many numbers as those channels did, but that aside, I said to myself, people still have to know about this guy. People still have to know about not just this guy, but the cover up around this guy. So I put out a video, did do so well, okay, blah blah blah. So now I'm in a space where I'm thinking, right, let's do a live about this. Let's do a live about this. Let's walk this. Let's go through this step by step. I put out a post about 3-4 days ago, whenever it was, and something interesting happened. You had somebody coming on, and let me present my screen again. Let's go back here and let me show you. Let's go to where are we now? Let's go to no. There we go. All right. This is a post from a few days ago. In 1977, French nationalists, let me click on, let's go here. French nationalists blew up this statue. France neither repaired nor rebuilt it. Instead, the government replaced the effigy with a different image, one completely at odds with the original and all contemporaneous descriptions of France's greatest knight. Why? Why? Why is the question? Why did this statue that you can see on your screen, first of all, why did it get blown up? Okay, this is France's greatest knight, greatest medieval figure of romance, let's say. Why did this statue get blown up in the 70s, in the late 70s, and was promptly replaced, not with something like it, to honor an artistic rendition that the artist, I believe, was a guy called Francis Guinard, um, an artistic representation that the artist felt was truest to the descriptions of this man. Why did we go from this to this? Can't really see that properly, but you can see this is not the same person. Why? Down below in the comments, you had an idiot saying to me, I think he's a troll. He's been around before, but he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything to not to my knowledge anyway, because I don't check all the time. But every now and then his name pops up and it's familiar. But this guy says, "Wow, way to cover the lead." I had to actually look that up. Cover the lead. What does that mean? But apparently it means I'm hiding something. I'm misdirecting. He says, "Wow, way to cover the lead. The statue in Bruges was destroyed by Breton nationalists, separatists from France. Bertrand du Guesclin is viewed as a traitor for siding with the French against Brittany. The statue in the photo isn't some medieval imagine. Don't know what he's talking about there. So evidently, I don't know. Can't write a proper sentence. Isn't some medieval imagine hidden by the crazy racists? It was sculpted by Francis Guinard in 1976, literally 1 year before it was destroyed. Okay, tell us something we don't know. We're not talking about this. Is I don't. It's besides the point. Was this statue blown up, targeted, and okay, you might say it was targeted because the history surrounding Rugekla means that it was a target. Okay, but why, when it was replaced, was it replaced with this? Why? And why is the head, which, when you look into it, the head, okay, is supposedly not destroyed, but is on display in a sort of inconspicuous manner somewhere in the town hall in this municipality in France? Why? Why isn't it something that's on display more publicly? Okay. Why has it been replaced for this? So that's the question. That's the question. Wouldn't you want to go back to wouldn't you want to go back to something closer to um the original statue? Especially being as it was actually quite, we're talking something close to realism here. This looks kind of fantastical. It looks kind of cartoonish, in my opinion. This does not. In any case, wouldn't you want to honor the individual who sculpted this, his memory, his work, his hard work? Why have you gone for something completely different? Why are they so different? Why are they so different? This guy says, wow, way to cover the lead. Way to cover the lead. Right. So covering the lead is me sort of distracting. Well, let's look that up. Let's look that up. Cover the lead meaning. Here we go. Okay, let's look. I don't like the AI. Hiding the most important and relevant pieces of a story. Actually, it's very hard to find the background to the motivations behind blowing up this statue. I looked into it when I was doing the research for the video. I really wanted to cite it in the video. What was the what was what was the reason behind blowing up that statue? What was the reason behind targeting this statue? And I don't know. It was just weird to me. Okay. Now I couldn't find anything. So shout out to what have I done that there? Shout out to Meerstein or whatever his name is for actually finding that. But doesn't it still begs many questions. Okay. So I'm covering a lead, supposedly. This is something that you find a lot when people like myself are doing work. And I was talking on this before, doing work to research and kind of unveil African history, Black history, okay, globally, wherever it is, or people of African origin, the kind of unveiling their history. It's something that you run up against all the time. First of all, there's denial. We always have to prove our stories. It's not very long ago. He says, "I'm covering the lead." Okay, this is somebody I'm supposing comes from a background, a European background, a Caucasoid background. So this is somebody from a heritage of people who, when they came to Africa, were saying that we couldn't build the walls, the cities, the ruins that they were finding there. And they were doing the most to say, see all of this, these artifacts, see all of these in Sudan, in Kush, in Egypt, in okay, fine. Let's say Egypt is let's pretend it's not part of Africa, which they like to do. Benin, the walls of Benin, walls of Zimbabwe, Monomotapa, all these different. Every single time they came across something of note, they had to ascribe it to either themselves or people adjacent to themselves, people who went far off in terms of um, the public's perception of European civilization. They had to ascribe it to these people. So I'm covering the lead. Okay, let's look into that. Let's look at covering the lead. They always act as if there's no basis to be paranoid. There's no basis for black um, historians to think, no, this merits more research. This merits more digging into. It was like brand new. Covering the lead. There's nothing to see here. I don't know if you guys have seen the is it Top Gun? No, not Top Gun. Ah the parody. The parody. Um ah help me out. It's by the same guys who made Airplane. Um anyway, um nothing to see here. You guys have seen that meme, right? Nothing to see here. Please move along. They always act as if they always do that. The same old shtick. Okay, I'm covering the lead. Let's stop sharing this. If you're in here now, and you're listening to me, you can hear me loud and clear. Hit the likes. Um, if you're enjoying what you're listening to. Okay. Right, I'm covering the lead. Okay, let's see if I'm covering the lead. Here we go. Let's present this to screen. Covering the lead. Very interesting phrase there. This is Saint Maurice. Okay. Um, somewhere in Germany or Austria. Um, everybody knows who Saint Maurice is. Especially, well, I say everybody, but everybody who's in this space, everybody who does what I do, and that follows the kind of content that I produce. Saint Maurice was an Egyptian, an African man of Egyptian origin in the late stages of the Roman Empire. I think we're talking Byzantine era now. Okay, nobody denies, nobody credible can credibly deny that Saint Maurice was a black man. Um, we have descriptions of him. Now, his story has been embellished. He was a martyr, okay? And he was a martyr because he refused to take orders that contravened his conscience under the pagan Roman Empire. He was the pioneers of of Christianity. This is an aside, but again, for those who believe Christianity belongs to the Caucasian race, Before it ever belonged, before it ever was a thing in Europe, it was a thing in Ethiopia. It was a thing in Africa. We pioneered, we spread Christianity to Europe. Okay, we spread the gospel to Europe. So you clearly don't know history, or you have an agenda when you keep going around saying this is the white man's religion. Yeah, yeah, I don't really. I'm not. This isn't even to say anything against the traditionalism that you want people to follow. Fine, worship the ancestors, whatever. But stop putting out just falsities and lies. Okay, some of the earliest pioneering figures of Christianity, whitewashed as they may be, were black people. Okay, not forced to it, not made eunuchs like in Islam or whatever. No, no, no. They were just black people, free will. Okay, right. Saint Maurice was one of these. Was in this company. Okay, and he refused to carry out a massacre of, I believe, fellow Christians. Okay, and he was killed for it. And I believe his company was decimated, which is where they kill a tenth of the men in the company. Um, Something along those lines. Nobody denies that this was a black person. If you look at the historical record, but here's another thing that's interesting. If you admit that Saint Maurice from the earliest times was depicted and accepted as a black African, excuse me, a black African man, then you have to ask yourself, well, a black African man, and nobody batted an eyelid about the fact that he was a black African man. When his legend was popping, as it were, when his legend was rising to the fore. If you accept that, then you must also accept that it want nothing for a black person, for an Egyptian to be a black person, especially one from Thebes. He was from, his company was the Theban company, the Theban regiment. That's Upper Egypt. That's done well near Nubia. Okay. So if you're admitting that you're saying really that once upon a time it was ain't nothing but a chicken wing, as we say, for somebody hailing from Egypt to be black. So you're also admitting that demographics have changed massively without even implicitly now. Okay. Nobody was saying, this Egyptian man from Thebes, um, he's black, don't you know? That's an oddity. Nobody was saying that. It was nothing. But so you have a problem. Unless, and here's where the but comes in, unless you can retrospectively whitewash St. Maurice. Let's keep it moving. This is St. Maurice as they want us increasingly to believe. This, see, nobody does this. If black people are taking on Jesus, okay, even though he was a black man, well, that's for another day. We will we'll look. Trust me, family. I've not forgotten. I promise that video that's coming. Okay, even though Jesus, if he was walking down the street today, would be seen. If the Romans were looking for him and it was APB out for the Lord Jesus Christ, it would be, yeah, black male on site. You know, they'll be they'll be sending out uh um radio whatever transmissions about, you know, black male dressed in robes, whatever. That's what they would be saying. Let's put that aside. When Africans took on Jesus, they didn't whitewash, they didn't blackwash him. They kept him as white, to the extent where we're now having to decolonize our minds from that image that was given to us. Okay, you take Jesus to Asia, to India, you still see, you know, the bleeding heart of Jesus, him touching his chest with some, you know, slightly sus looking individual who turns out has no bearing, has no resemblance to the original Jesus, actually was Michelangelo's lover. Okay, that's what you get around the world. Nobody else apart from Europeans feel the need to take somebody from the context, the historical context that they, you know, that um this individual, this legend or this story or this historical figure transpired from, and then completely change them. And yet, if you were to go to Africa today and you saw a black Jesus in front of a church, you would, because of our colonized minds and because we've been taught a reverse view of the world, we would think that's a political act. We would think, oh my goodness, what are they trying to say? They there's black Jesus. Whereas actually, the people who did the political acts, the people who vandalized the image and the accepted image of Jesus Christ were the Europeans. Exhibit A right here, Saint Maurice, from the earliest times known as a black Egyptian male. This is I don't know. This is I think this is by Giovanni Bellini from a manuscript. Um uh yeah, I don't know what year would this be. Let's have a look. Chat, are you understanding what I'm saying to you? Are you understanding what I'm explaining to you right now? Nobody else does this. Thank you for your super chat, Keo or Kale. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. Keep your foot on their necks. Love from America. No, but thank you so much for that $20 super chat. I really appreciate your support, brother. Nobody else does this. Nobody else goes out of their way to change people, change narratives, and then when enough time has passed and you've brainwashed the world, then act all brand new and act as if, what? Burying the lead? You're burying the lead? Okay, we're burying the lead, right? All right, that's Saint Maurice. This is let me get the full information on that. This is Giovanni Bellini from a manuscript known as Marcello's Passion of Saint Maurice and Companions, 1453, circa 1453. So as early as the Renaissance era, the beginning of the Renaissance period, they're already whitewashing Saint Maurice. Okay, burying the lead now. We're gonna get to Guesclin. Okay, but this is to show, this is to disabuse anybody of this idea that black historians don't have a right to be paranoid. Burying the lead, don't have a right to actually dig deeper into so-called Western history and our contribution as a peoples, as a group of peoples to it. Not in some cases, not even contribution, downright seeding it, owning it, belonging to us initially, before then being abrogated and whitewashed. Okay, this is Saint Maurice as you find him in some Greek churches. We just have people crying about Helen of Troy, right, guys? We just have people crying about Helen of Troy. A black Egyptian, an Egyptian man. You don't even add black to it. An Egyptian man. This is Saint Maurice as you find him in some churches today, burying the lead. Okay, and yet we're not supposed to ascribe any political or ill intent to this whitewashing. We're just supposed to, I don't know, at the most, someone like the guy who put this stupid comment on my channel, would want us to believe that this is just happenstance. This is just people, just artistic license. Yet the very same people are crying, fully grown men crying about a 3,000-year-old fairy tale. A 3,000-year-old fairy tale adapted by Christopher Nolan. They're crying. You should see these people. No, Helen of Troy is a beautiful blonde woman. It said in the text. It said in the text. The text says the you have Metatron. Metatron has not stopped videos. This guy is the fraud. When you look at fraud and disingenuity in the dictionary, it should have a picture of this man. Fully grown man, older than myself now. Older than myself. I'm in my 30s. I'm sure this man at least is in his late 30s. He looks like he's in his 50s, really. Let's be honest. But that's what his way of life gets you. Saint Maurice. I don't even know what's going on here. I don't know when this was done, but this is supposed to be Saint Maurice and his Theban, his Egyptian company now. I don't know. This is like I really don't want to know what's going on here with the tight what's this? Thongs and G-strings. Like, it's the depraved Maurice. We're looking at depraved Maurice now. We've not just whitewashed him. I don't know which one is supposed to be Maurice here, but I mean, what is going on? Burying the lead. We'll get to do Guesclin in a minute. The hypocrisy, the duplicitous, the duplicity of Western civilization, what we call European. All right, let's just keep it moving. I don't wanna lose track. I don't wanna get off in something else. Okay, we're not finished burying the lead. This is Saint Maurice, supposedly, in some places. Go and look up. Right, let's do it now. I don't even have to do it. You can do it in your own time. If you were to look up the actual um some of the oldest images, of Saint Maurice. Let me share this with you. None of this. Right. Hmm. So this is what I'm saying, guys. Do this with me. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen again. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Wikipedia St. Maurice. Right. Hope you guys can see this. So now when you go on Wikipedia and you look up St. Maurice, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. This is why I tell you guys, download articles of Wikipedia, have it local, okay? Because a few months ago when I went on this entry on Wikipedia, this was not here. They were at least truthful to some extent. Look at this now. Look what they've done. This is the Theban Legion under St. Maurice in the middle, according to Wikipedia now. What is the motive of this? What is the motive of this? Because I promise you, if the world keeps going as it is right now, okay, one day this will be the default image. One day, somebody somewhere, Troll Black's great grandson will be arguing on the Troll Black channel 2000, 3000. I don't know what it'll be called then. Will be arguing with someone that no, Saint Maurice was black, and they'll be saying we was Roman legionnaires and shit. That's what they, that's what these these non-funny retards will be saying. Okay, right. Again, look at Saint Maurice. Look at the images that they're showing of Saint Maurice. It takes you till you get to this far down, halfway down the entry, till you see Saint Maurice centered by Matthias Grunwald, 16th century. It takes you right here. We are. This is one of the oldest images of St. Maurice that you can get. 13th century. That's the 1200s. In the Magdeburg Cathedral in Germany, I believe. Look at that. This is who they've turned into this. Burying the lead. A historical figure. Okay, fine. Hagiographized. Turned into a saint. Probably put, lots of embellishment on his story, and people, oh, I saw Saint Maurice, he appeared and he did this miracle. Okay, fine, but on some level we all agree this was a real individual, this was a real person. Look what they've done to him. Okay, so we'll get to Guesclin in a minute. Let me show you something else. Let's go back to our images. Let me present again to you. Whilst they cry about 3,000-year-old depictions or descriptions of imaginary people. Unbelievable. No, not that. There we go. All right. This, what you are looking at right now, is the oldest known image or representation of the patron saint of England. The patron saint of England. Chat, who's that? Who are we looking at? Who are we looking at, chat? Is anyone paying attention? We got 39 in the building. Again, hit the likes. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for joining me tonight as we take down the lies and the debunkers, the fake debunkers, the thieves of history, the real the real thieves of history. Who are we looking at? I'm sure some of you can see it already at the top there. I'm sure you can see it. But let me know. Let me know. Who are we looking at? Does anyone know? And tell me what this individual looks like. What does his hair look like? Let's start there. What does his hair look like? Come on, chat. Let's have some interaction. This is a black man. This is the patron saint of England as depicted in the Byzantine era. You're looking at Saint George. Saint George. Okay? Supposedly of a Greek father and a Palestinian mother. Someone might say, well, that rules out the fact that no, that rules out any possibility that we're looking at a black man. So now what you're doing is regressive, is retrospectively going back and saying, okay, so now I know that he's Greek and he's Palestinian. He can't, I can't be looking at a black man. There must be some there must be some reason why his nose looks like that, his lips look like that. It's been flattened. Okay, what about his hair? Well, there must be some reason that's not really. Oh, oh, Byzantine era plaque depicting Saint George. What's that hair? What's that hair? We've seen that hair before somewhere. We've seen that hair before somewhere else. Oh, isn't that the same hair the Egyptians have? Isn't that the same hair we're constantly told is a wig? Isn't that the same hair that if it weren't a wig, if we don't call it a wig, it's just black hair? Isn't that the same hair? Ladies, pay attention. Pay attention now. Come on. Come on. Let's move that away. Come on, ladies. All right. Look at that. Look at that. Same hair. Now, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Palestine, or the region known as Palestine, is right next to Egypt. It's literally an appendage of Africa. It's literally an appendage of It's right. It's Africa. It's Africa. In fact, go and look at some of the reports. Go and look at some of the earliest videos, recordings we have of Jerusalem. It's filled with black people. It's always been. It would be it would be far more abnormal to see somebody with blonde hair, blue eyes, even, yeah, in that region of the world, than it would be to see a quote unquote Ethiopian. That's how every other person looked in that part of the world till very recently. Till very recently. In fact, go and look up the reconstructions that's been done. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but reconstructions that's been done of Natufians, the earliest population group that we know lived in the region of Canaan. Black faces, black heads, black skulls, black faces, literally black skulls. As reconstructed. When you see the reconstructions, you go, wow. That shouldn't surprise anybody. That his mother was very likely an Afro quote unquote Afro-Palestinian. She wouldn't be called Afro-Palestinian back then. She'd just be a Palestinian black woman. This is the hair that you can see. Look, look. Go back to the original. This is St. George. These are the earliest depictions of St. George now. Even if you don't want to, even if you want to have your little cognitive dissonance and pretend you're not looking at a black person, okay? Um, it's a million miles away from how St. George is depicted now. A million miles away. Look at the hair. Same hair as this. Same hair you see on that plaque is what you see in here. Look, look. Same. These are some of the earliest depictions of the earliest sculptures we have from ancient Egypt. I'll go back again. We have it from East to West Africa. This is not Egyptian. It's not Nubian. It's not Kushite. This is a Benin man. This is the same hair you see in Egypt. This is the same hair because it's the same people. It's the same people. Same thing. Same thing. You can see it till today. You can see them doing it. This stratified, layered preparation of hair. You can still see it. It's the same thing you see on the earliest depictions of St. George. Now, keep going. Let's keep going. Look at it. Look at it on Egyptian walls. These are supposed to be Kushites. This is Prince Ramesses, I believe. Same thing. Same thing with the hair. Okay. This is a medallion from 1100 AD. Constantinople. That's modern day Turkey. Istanbul, I believe. Okay. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at an individual that if he was walking the streets of the UK today, would be at the most classed as Somali. At the most classed as Ethiopian, Somali, Eritrean. These are the earliest depictions of him. Remember, burying the lead. This is another depiction of St. George from a medieval Latin manuscript now. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? They're heroes. The people they even based the founding of their country, St. George, slaying the dragon. They're black. They're actually black. Again, like I said at the beginning, no other civilization, no other culture does this. Even if you go to China and you have a Chinese Jesus, the Chinese won't look at you funny if you say, you do know that's not Jesus, right? You do know, like, you need to be this. You've Sinofied him. You've Chinese. I need to be politically correct here. You've Chinofied him. I don't know what the word would be. You're giving him some Oriental eyes there, a bit of yellow skin there, fine. But that isn't, that's not the Jesus we gave you. And the Chinese won't look at you funny. They'll be like, okay, yeah, fair. Well, we know that. He was from the Middle East. He was from Jerusalem, whatever. Yeah. But were you to show a supposedly educated English historian or, any of this about St. George, they look at you funny as though you're mental, as though you made all this up. They would gaslight you instantly. Instantly gaslight you. Well, what you're looking at is a representation that was due to the exoticization of Saint George as the legends became far-fetched, and the Europeans at that time wanted to they looked up to the exotic spicelands of the Saint King. Yeah, we was kings. That's it. That's what you get. Because in their minds, black history or black people's narratives isn't supposed to amount to much. Isn't supposed to amount to much. This is Mansa Musa bearing the lead. This is Mansa Musa as depicted on cartographic on maps done by the Portuguese, the Spanish, the seafaring Europeans of long ago. Okay, this is Mansa Musa. Okay, the emperor of Mali, the emperor of the Mali Empire, feared world over. Alliances had to be made to break the Songhai Empire. Okay, this Mandingo Empire. Look at what they've done to Mansa Musa's family. Look at what they've done to Mansa Musa. This is from a game called Age of Empires. Look what they've done to Mansa Musa. Already starting to Arabize him. Notwithstanding the fact that the original Arabs were black themselves, notwithstanding that fact, let's leave that to one side. That when I say Arabize him, I really mean Ottoman, Turkicize him. Okay? They start to make him this beige, kind of Arab looking. Look at this. Look at this. What's the excuse for this? And forget excuse for it. Did we have a public outcry? Did we have black folk lose their absolute feces over this disgrace of a rendition? No, we didn't. We kept it moving. This isn't, it's not our first rodeo. I'm sure lots of black people play this game. So, what's the excuse behind this? Bearing the lead. Okay, let's keep on going. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. We're nearly at Guesclin. This is Moulay Ismail. Moulay Ismail is the last great king of Morocco. You're looking at the last great king of Morocco now. Under him, Morocco had the last sort of flourishings of empire. He was a mixed man, apparently. His mother was a black, black quote unquote sub-Saharan African. Nobody denies there are records of him being mistaken for a full black man. Obviously, because his father it's still Africa. We're talking Morocco here. His father on the continent of Africa, on a landmass that the original inhabitants were fully melanated, fully black individuals. His father already has some base black in him. Okay, some quote unquote, again, sub-Saharan genetics in him. Okay, marries a Fulani concubine. Okay, that's who becomes his principally his chief wife, and this is what they begat. Moulay Ismail, as you can see on the screen right now. Okay, everybody said when the Europeans went to his court during the what are we talking about now? The 1500s, I believe. Was it the 1500s? Sorry, we're talking the 18th century now. 18th century, 17th century. Sorry, my bad. 17th century. People like John Smith of Pocahontas fame saying, contrary to popular belief, he's not actually a full black. He might look like he's a full black, but he's not. Okay. His wife, this notorious woman, Zaidan, I think she was called, a full black woman. His guards, who he loves so much, his black corps, CORPS, a black guard. I think this is where the term blackguard comes from, because they were notorious and he wanted them to be black. I believe because uniformly black. I believe there was already a high level. It's not I believe, it's fact. It's factual. There was already a high level of anti-black racism going on in Morocco and North Africa at that time that had seeped in from European Jews and just Western ideology in itself. And you have this last great emperor of Morocco coming in at a time that's filled with anti-blackness, and he really um was making a statement. Complete black. They weren't eunuchs now. These guys were not eunuchs. Okay, which they like to portray them as. They weren't. They were given fine dwellings, lodgings, they had their own families. Okay, and Muley Ishmael was partial to them. This is him. Okay, this is consistent with, you can see his deep black skin there, consistent with descriptions we have of him at the time. These are his relatives today. These are his descendants. You can if you know, you can you see what you're looking at. Okay, right. We know where you're descended from. This is the king of Muhammad today, the king of Morocco today, King Muhammad Ismail. Okay, these are some of his relatives, descendants again. The founder of the current dynasty of Morocco. Okay, Moulay Ismail. These are some of his descendants from way back when in the 1800s. Again, some more of his descendants. Okay, not as pronounced in terms of Negro features as this individual, but again, you can see what's going on. All right. Again, these are his contemporaries. I think this is his half brother. This is his half brother, guys. Okay, Moulay Ismail's half brother at the time. Yeah, you go to Morocco today and you tell them about their black roots. It's like, no, 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 we're different. We're sub-Saharan. We're not sub-Saharan, man. We got our own culture. Oh, no, 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 Habibi, no, 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 me no black, Habibi. This is what they've done to Mullah Ishmael, guys. This is the modern representation of Mullah Ishmael. Look up, take a look at your screen. Excuse me. Take a look at your screen today if you want to see an example of burying the lead. This is what they've done. What is the excuse? Again, why is he pouting? I don't know who's done this, but why is he pouting? Okay, that aside, why have they whitewashed this individual? Why have they done this to him? And why are we supposed to believe this has nothing to do with colorism, racism, a desire to divorce yourself from blackness, self-hatred on the continent of Africa? This is him. This is the most popular or famous portrait of Moulay Ismail today. Bears no resemblance to this. No resemblance to this woodcut. So I ask you, why? What's really going on? What's really going on? What's really going on, chat? Okay, we're nearly there now. We're nearly there. Princess Charlotte, they swear up and down this woman had no black in her. They swear up and down. This is more tertiary now. This is more sort of tenuous because we have no concrete evidence apart from the evidence of our eyes. This is a woman whose blackness is far more evident than what's her name, Meghan Markle. Still there, chat. Still there. Look at her profile. What's going on? Why do you think she's been depicted like this? This is a woman when she was alive, she was called ugly. And you look up why they called her ugly. What ugly was adjacent to, what ugly was tied to, what it was proximal to, especially from medieval times and the rise of anti-blackness, which began in medieval times in Europe, with the wars and the wars, the constant friction with the Moors. Look at what happened. Anytime they called ugly became a euphemism for blackness. Go and look at the texts. Wherever you would find black, soon you would find ugly. This woman was called ugly and black in her lifetime. some of her closest companions, not companions, people who saw her, pr- privately. One of the physicians to the royal family at the time said she looks black without all the makeup on, and they powdered their faces like mad back then because again, white was beautiful. Look at this lady. Look at this woman. I'm trying to do a video on this, but the research. This is why you got to support us, man. This is why you got to support me because I can't go as hard as I want to because I just can't. I got to stack my paper some other way. So if you want these things videos to come out quicker, you need to support me. You need to support me. I'm trying to get access to paintings of her relatives that we only have descriptions of. We only have written descriptions of. They are described, okay? Her brothers are described as looking like orangutans, I believe. Orangutans. I believe you guys know what an orangutan is. But I've not seen those images. If I have to go to the house, the manor here in the UK, where the paintings are supposedly based or to be found, I will do that. But I have to know that they're actually there because they tell us that there's nothing to see here again as well. This is Princess Charlotte, Queen Charlotte, as she later became. This is why in Bridgerton they depict her as a light-skinned African descended woman because that was what that those were the rumors going about at the time. Now, this is one image you'll never see of Queen Charlotte because it shows you exactly how people saw her. Look at her face. It's been dusted up. They've done the individual has taken all the makeup, all the pretense of, and has just literally blackfaced her. Why have they done that? Hmm? Burying the lead. Now, however, today, when Alan Ramsey, um, because Alan Ramsey was the individual, the abolitionist. Shout out to him, the anti-slavery campaigner. He made these paintings, and he said he stuck to his guns because he thought they were most truthful. Alan Ramsey never did anything that was exaggerational or anything. He was trying to be faithful to what he saw. Okay, but these are the images that they like to present of Queen. Look at just compare the two guys. Compare them. These aren't the same people. This is supposed to be Queen Charlotte. What motive would you have for turning this, and this, and this? That's the same one. And this, okay, and this into this. What motive? What motive? This doesn't even look like a real. Look at the proportions. This is so wild. This thing is crazy to me. But they put this out as Queen Charlotte. Look at her hair. She's already a queen here at this stage. Reptilian. She looks reptilian. They don't even care anymore about making her look human. The nose is gone. The lips are gone. She's just reptilian. You can tell her hair's curly. Yeah, Bio, thank you for joining us. You can tell her hair's curly. You can see it. But they turned her into this. I'm half expecting her lip, her tongue to come out and lick her eyeballs. Right, let's keep it moving. Let's go. Let's go. So we are expected. Okay, this is The famous Dr. Marion Sims. Americans might know of this individual. Deirdre Cooper, I believe, the Dr. Deirdre Cooper. If anyone has access to her, please try and reach out on my behalf. See if we can get her on. I'm trying to get her on to come and discuss her work, her lifetime, her life's work on Black women's contribution to American medicine and American medical science. Marion Sims got all the credit for his innovations in gynecology, a 19th century doctor, American doctor, white guy. In actual fact, he got a lot of help, a lot of homeopathic help, a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of just knowledge from Black nurses, enslaved nurses that he employed. And not just nurses now, but patients. Okay. All his patients, that almost all his patients were Black women. Not patients now. We're talking forced uh uh people that he experimented on. Okay. These were Black women. When he came to writing his book, this is what he did. He brutalized these women. Okay. But when he came to writing his book and putting illustrations in his book, this is what he turned them into. He didn't even have the decency of presenting actual Black bodies, actual Black nurses and Black assistants. He brutalizes women, and when he came to write it, when he came to tell the story, he put this up there. He put this up there. You know? And some of his patients were actual willing volunteers. Some of these Black women were willing volunteers, roped into it somehow, but they were willing. This is highly offensive. Highly offensive. And what's worse about it is in 2026, we are supposed to not think. We're talking about a lineage of people who yesterday we were still Africans. Forget America now. Forget the Voting Rights Act. Africans on the soil on the land, on African land 30 years ago. I was alive 30 years ago. We're only just getting the right to vote on African soil in South Africa. Only just getting the first Black president of an African nation in the 90s, in the 80s. And we are supposed to believe today there's no conspiracy. There's burying the leads. There's nothing here. Just making stuff up. It's the worst sort of evil that there is. It's awful. Actually awful. It's not enough to brutalize the people. You now actually you go out of your way to write them out. Write them out. As if they only existed where you said they existed. When you said they existed. Where and how you said they existed. And dare anybody look into it and doubt your narrative, they're Afrocentrist. They're kooks. They're being political. Someone put in the chat, lineage of evil. Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is. This is from this is a wax. I don't know if it's wax or if it's just a painting. It looks like a painting from the University of Michigan Museum of Art. That's more realistic and that portrays what happened in these experimental procedures with Black women in America, with Marion Sims. Lastly, this is the crest, or was the crest, for the Worshipful Company of Needle Makers, a very high sort of highbrow guild, like kind of like it's almost like on a Masonic level now. But this guild started as um it was something special. It was yeah, needle makers. It sounds silly now, but needle making, needles were an actual were something were a were a special sort of technology back in the day. They were hard to come by. Um, this is the modern crest, completely minimalized. But get this. This is from a book that I found online, an old book. It says this: the earliest record of needle making in London is in the year 1545 during the reign of Henry VIII. And the most general idea is that this useful branch of industry was introduced by a Moor from Spain, who also, it is said, about the year 1563 commenced the making of his own wire, which gave him the preeminence, that's a monopoly now, over the needle makers in the other parts of the kingdom, who had to import their own from Spain and Germany. So, this guy was the pioneer of needle making in England. He literally single handedly started this guild himself in England. He was a Moor from Spain, but people want you to believe that the Moors were not black, and this is all just recent Afrocentrist revisionism. The Moors were just Arab, you know, modern North African types. Except the oldest iterations, and I've not been able to get a clear colored if anybody's out there, chat, if you can get access to this for me, I'll be forever indebted. I'll be very grateful to you. But I've not been able to get a colored representation of the original crest of the worshipful company of needlemakers in England. This is as far as I've been able to get. Chat, can you see that? Can you see who's at the top there? This is what they've removed. Can you see the individual at the top there? The Moor from Spain. He had a monopoly on this industry, and he refused, very cleverly, he refused to share his knowledge. And a lot of people were angry at him for it. Today, he's nowhere to be found on the crest of out of respect, you would think, at least out of respect, especially in a time when we like to be politically correct and we like to, show how diverse we are and whatnot. You would think they would keep this guy on the crest somehow. No, he's gone. He's gone. So that now, if you said, do you know that this all was started by a black man living in Henry VIII's England? People look at you sideways like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. This is how deep. I think part of the problem is a lot of white people can't understand that they couldn't survive in our spaces. They couldn't survive the tropics. They couldn't venture into Africa. It took them a long time to venture into our space and to discover how to maneuver into Africa. So much so that when they finally did it, they were writing home about it, like, "Oh, we did this. I'm the first person to cross the Africa and to do things that we were doing willy nilly." Okay, whereas we were already in their spaces. We were sailing into their spaces. We had established monopolies like it was nobody's business in their so-called spaces. So it's hard for them, having been brainwashed for however long, that they discovered everything and everybody. It's hard for them to realize, actually, no. In fact, you were discovered. Your space, your land was discovered before you were discovering anything. We came to you before you were coming to us. You see what I'm trying to say, chat? Press 1 in the chat if you understand what I'm trying to say to you there. Press 1 in the chat. They can't get that. They don't understand. They've been fed a bunch of lies. They've been told that, oh, yeah, 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 you went there, we still there, we discovered you, you were savage. No, no, no. Actually, truth is, you were the one being discovered, you know? Shout out to Kieran Grant. Thank you for your $5 super chat. He says Charles III of Spain is depicted as white, but in books written in the 1700s, he's described as, quote, very brown and mahogany. AI calls it a tan. Of course, because AI is not unbiased. AI is just what is somebody's programming. That's what it is. Thank you for that. Thank you, Kieran Grant. So, thank you. I see people replying 111. That's exactly what the problem is. And Europeans, history or so-called historians don't do themselves any favor when they politicize history like we've seen recently with Helen of Troy and whatnot. The problem with Helen of Troy isn't that. I've looked at the records, I've looked at the translation, and to be fair, Xanthos, it does describe blonde hair, blondish hair. However, to be truthful, the other way, they can't do that. To be truthful about when they see black, melas, melancrus, uloi, uloctrices, curly, close curling hair, thick lips, translations that, to be truthful the other way around, they can't do that. They can't do that. They have to start talking about tan and not literal meanings and symbolic meanings. Okay, now we're at Du Guesclin. Now we are at Du Guesclin. These are just, I have it in mind at a later date to investigate these crests. They're all over Germany. Shout out again to Kapruki, who's done he's done great work on these crests in the past. KAPROOKI. Great work on these crests. I want to get to the bottom of who were these people depicted all over Europe, especially Germany. Now, who are these people? They're not slaves. This is well before slavery was a thing, particularly in Europe. All over the houses, Schwarzenegger. Okay, you don't get blacker than that as a name. Schwarz, black, and then you have nigger at the end of it. Okay, why do these houses have black people on the top, featuring prominently on their crests? We're just putting slaves on our crests. Schwarz. There's the needle maker again. There's another house, another German house. There's that needle maker again. Now we're back at Du Guesclin. Now we're started. Now we're really started. And do you know what? This part of this live is actually really short, because there's something I just want to. For people who haven't watched the video, I say go and watch the video, okay? But let me just break this down. This image was blown up in 1976. It's sculpted, created by Francis Guinard. Okay, this is in the modern era what they've depicted Bertrand du Guesclin as. Okay, how do you go from this to this? Why were some people depicting? Once we've established now that this is a thing, that this happens, okay, how do you go? So once we put our paranoia hats on, having, seen good evidence to be paranoid, we now have to start asking ourselves, who's really bearing the lead? How do you go from this to this to this? What's going on? Jacques de Lefebvre was a French theologian, scholar, and humanist who made significant contributions to the intellectual and religious reforms of the early 16th century. Born around 1455 in Étaples, in a northern French town, Lefebvre studied at the University of Paris, or Paris. There, he acquired expertise in classical literature, philosophy, and theology, and became a professor at the Sorbonne. His early scholarly efforts were directed at explaining Aristotle's writings, and he was widely recognized as a specialist in scholastic philosophy. Lefebvre's actual contribution began with his efforts on the Bible, etc., etc. So, this is a real individual. He writes a book, okay, translating from Old French, what is, um, I'm guessing, Old French by now. Um, I don't even know whether he translates it, but anyway, he gets hold of a manuscript by, I believe, Jean Lefebvre, okay, who he might be related to, and he modernizes it, he updates it, and it's called the Ancien Mémoire du 14e siècle. I'm not going to pretend to, know French like that, but the translation, if I can get to it, is is right, let's look this up. Let's look this up. Blah blah blah. Chat, press one if you following me, if you're enjoying this. Press one. I need to know. Otherwise, it's quite late here. I might just go to bed. Quite late indeed. Okay, let's do it. Press one in the chat. Thank you. Thank you, Kieran. Thank you, my brother. Okay, let's go. Let's change screens. Let's stop that and let's share another screen. Thank you, Bio. Thank you, Lord Tahaka. Thank you, Johanna. Let's go to. No, that's not the one I want. Thank you for your interaction, guys. Okay, let's go here. Let's go French. I copied this down earlier to English. There we go. Here's the French text. Copy paste. Old memoirs from the 14th century recently discovered, wherein one may learn of the most surprising adventures and the most curious details of the life of the famous Bertrand du Guesclin, Constable of France, who through his valor restored a Catholic prince to his realm. Okay, bit long-winded, but that's exactly what that says. So let's go, let's close that. And let's present again. Let's present again to share screen. Yes, Kieran Grant, he was captured in battle a bunch of times and the king kept paying his ransom. Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because he was that valuable, Kieran. He was that valuable. I'm telling you, this guy, and this is me going conspiratorial again. Perhaps they've not made a movie about this guy because, I mean, a full blown Hollywood movie. Okay, because people like myself would be shouting and saying, no, 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 he's black. He was black. Or maybe some woke director somewhere, I'm using woke in the proper sense of the word now, has his eyes all over this and they just won't let him produce it the way he wants to produce it with a black lead, you know? But I don't know how this has not made it to Hollywood yet, to the big screen. This guy's got this. This life isn't about the achievements he made of his life. It's more about the cover up about his ethnicity. Okay. Um, but if you were to look into his life, it is an epic. You would do it in a trilogy. That's one of my beefs with or the Odyssey is that really the Odyssey should have been done in a trilogy, or at least in as a sort of part one, part two. It's I'm like I said, I'm reading it now. I'll finish it soon, and guys, it really should be it should have been broken up because he's tried to do too much in one film. If anyone's seen that film by now, the pacing is all over the place. That's one of my biggest beefs with the film. It's grand. It has meaning. He's trying to tell, Nolan is all about the anti-hero. That's his thing. That's what a lot of people don't get about. Oh, they you see these haters talking about how Odysseus he's meant to be charismatic in this. Yeah. But this is Nolan's telling of Odysseus, and Nolan is focusing on his man of many faces aspect, as Homer calls him. He's focusing on um his his struggling his struggles with the war at Troy and what he's seen. Go and watch The Dark Knight that we all love. That's what he does with Batman. He makes Batman this conflicted hero. What's the trope in Batman? What happens in The Dark Knight? What's the famous quote from it? The hero we not the hero we needed, but the one we deserved. So I can't remember if I'm probably butchering that. But that's all from Batman. That's all from Nolan's Dark Knight. That's what he's constantly doing. He's constantly trying to um bend the rules when it comes to the protagonist. So that's what he does there. So, but it should have been done over two or three parts. I don't know, chat, if you agree with me with that. But yeah, okay. Right. Now you're looking at an image. This is from one of the old manuscripts. I believe this is to the 15th century. What are you looking at, chat? There's a reason when you see this, what you're seeing on your screen. This is a black man. Don't even doubt it. This is a black man. But you have to go digging. This is why Francis de Guinard decided this is how I'm going to portray my Du Guesclin. Because this man was described by his contemporaries as something of a sticking out thumb, a sore thumb. They called him black skinned. That's what they said. They said his skin was black. They didn't play about, guys. They said his skin was as black as a wild, as black as a boar. Go and look up a boar, guys. Anyone grew up on Asterix and Obelix? Go and look up a boar. These are accounts from his time, or about the latest 100 years from his time. Okay? And so Francis Grenard decides, but we're not just talking about skin as black as a thing, as a boar. We're talking about features. Look at this. Look at the features. Look at the features. Look at this guy. Cropped hair. Look at the nose. Broad nose. What you might call puggish. What they refer to it constantly as a pug's nose. Okay. Not content. So we had people try to explain why should Du Guesclin have presented. Why should Du Guesclin? Thank you, Kieran Grant. You live long enough to become the villain. Yes, exactly. That's what Nolan is bothered about. Okay, so um, and I feel that would have been appreciated about this Odyssey if it wasn't drowned in all the culture wars. People wanting to be retrospectively right, about the Odyssey being rubbish. So they kind of still have this. They're judging it super harshly, forgetting what they're watching, forgetting who they're watching here. Anyway, back to what I'm saying. You have this guy described not just by his skin, but his features. And I'm going to present you some of those accounts, right? We don't know. I should say they won't let us know why Guesclin, if we had real historians who didn't have ego deficiencies, who didn't have little man syndrome, if we had real historians out there, we would have gotten to the bottom of this by now. It's my belief that we're talking about 14th century Europe, okay? 14th century Europe. What was 14th century Europe and France and Spain like? Constantly warring with the Moors. They've completely blanched, whitewashed that element of their history. When you watch history movies, period dramas from this period, you would think that Europe was this homogenous place. It wasn't. It wasn't. Particularly not Mediterranean Europe, particularly not places like the south of France, Spain. Constantly warring with the Moors, constantly imbibing Moorish African culture, drumming, dance, music. That's why Spain's musical scene is so exotic. I presented in a post not long ago an anthropologist and historian from the 19th century, late 19th century, saying Spain culturally is African. Its history is African. We've just whitewashed that in more recent times. That's why genetically they track closer to sub-Saharan, quote, sub-Saharan Africans. We've had the Black History Man on our channel before. Robin Walker, the great Robin Walker, talking about presenting medical anthropological data that shows that the Benin haplogroup, the Benin haplotype of sickle cell is predominant mostly in Spanish people for a reason. Because the Moors were in that land doing all kinds of things and all kinds of people. Sorry. Oops. They left their mark. But now, when they show these times and places, black people don't exist. They went there. So it's my belief that somehow, either the father brought home a baby that, shouldn't have happened, and said, look, mama, I want to do right by this child. I loved her mom. I loved his mother. And okay, fine. I know what the times are. I know we're warring with the Moors all the time, constantly, the heathens, whatnot. But I'm gonna keep this baby. I want to do right by him, this boy. Either that happened, or the mother, her eyes went astraying a bit. She went looking for the thing. Let's just let's just leave it there. Something happened. And if we're adults in the room, I believe everybody in here, we're all adults here. Okay, you have black people living next to you. You have black people dominating great spaces next to you on your land. Something, stuff will happen. Listen to this account. Look at this account. And this stuff that happened is what these weirdos want to keep trying constantly deny. Constantly trying, like, just living in delusion land. Okay. This is an article from something got by a guy called Froissart. It's actually a whole book. Chronicles of England, France, and adjoining countries from 1848. And this is on page 200 of this book. This is now, they accept that something was going on with Bertrand du Guesclin. If you were going to portray him in modern times, he presents as a black man. So people in the 1800s are now trying to work out, why should this be? Listen to this explanation. In the reign of Charlemagne, the great conqueror, this is I believe a stipulated discussion, dialogue that's going on in this book. In the reign of Charlemagne, that great conqueror who added so much to Christendom and France, for he was emperor of Rome as well as king of France and Germany, and whose body now lies in Aix-la-Chapelle. This King Charles, as is seen in the ancient chronicles, for you know that all the knowledge we possess in this world we owe to writing, and upon no other foundation can we depend for truth, but on what is contained in approved books. Wow, that's a parenthesis. Okay, let's read it without the parentheses. This King Charles, Charlemagne, as is seen in the ancient chronicles, was several times in Spain, where he once remained for 9 years without returning to France, but conquering all before him. This is pseudo history. This is Charlemagne was he was something. He played his part, but no, he did not expel the Moors. He didn't do this great reconquista of Spain that they talk about all the time. Nah, the Moors. It was, I think, I might be wrong, but it was during his reign that a certain Yusuf ibn Tashfin reinvaded like half of Spain. Okay, leaving them just a strip, a northern strip. So this is cope from this person. This isn't actually historically accurate, but this is a sort of legend, a mythologization of why Bertrand du Guesclin should have been black. At this time, there was a pagan king called Aka, okay, probably Akim, okay, and malappropriating into Akin in the French tongue, who reigned over Bougia and Barbary that lie opposite to Spain. The kingdom of Spain was very considerable if you follow its coasts from Saint Jean du Pied de Port, for it then contained all of Aragon, Navarre, Biscay, Oporto, Coimbra, Lisbon, Seville, Cordova, Toledo, and Leon. And these formerly were conquered by this great king. During his long residence in Spain, Akin or Akim, king of Bougia and Barbary, assembled an army and embarked for Brittany, where he landed at the port of Vannes or Van. He brought his wife and children with him, and having established himself and his army in the country, proceeded to make further conquests. King Charles was duly informed of what was passing in Brittany, but he would not let it interfere with his present undertaking, saying, "Let him establish himself in Brittany. It will not be difficult for us to free the country from him and his people. But we will first complete the conquest of this country and submit it to the Christian faith." This King Akim built a handsome tower on the seashore near to Vannes called the Glay, wherein he took pleasure to reside. When Charlemagne had accomplished his expedition to Spain by the delivery of Galicia and other provinces from the Saracens, whose kings he had slain, and by driving out the infidels, had brought the whole kingdom under the Christian faith, he sailed for Brittany and gave battle to King Akim and his adherents, with such success that the greater part of the infidels were killed, and King Akim forced to fly in a vessel that lay ready, prepared for him at the foot of the Tower of Glay. He was so hard pressed by the French, this Akim, he could only embark himself, his wife, and some of his family, and in the hurry forgot a young child of about a year old that was asleep in the tower. The king having escaped, this child was brought to Charlemagne, who was much pleased with him and had him baptized. There are actual images germane to the time, from emanating from around roughly this time. You'll see them Moors being baptized. They're black people. Moors being baptized, being converted to Christianity. They're blacks. They're not. They're not ambiguous. They're not white looking Arabs. They're black people, and it will say the Moor being baptized. Okay, Roland and Oliver were his godfathers at the font, and the emperor Charlemagne gave him handsome presents and the lands his father uh had won in Brittany. This child, this is at the end now, when grown up, was a valiant knight and called Oliver Dugleacan. You can see how it formed, because he had been found in the Tower of Glay and was the son of a king or a Ka. Such was the foundation of the family of Sir Bertrand du Guesclin, which, as you see, ought to be called Glecin. Glecin. Sorry. Okay. So this is the myth arising that's used to explain the fact that Bertrand du Guesclin was a black man. You can't square the circle. It was there. there's reason why people say this man, if you're going to be faithful to the contemporary accounts, looked nothing like your ordinary Frenchman. He was a black man. There's a there. Okay? We all want to be faithful, don't we? We wouldn't want to be historically inaccurate, remember? Remember that? And what's sad about this is that it's key to his story. So go and watch my video. I'm not going to play it because I don't like listening to myself. Like many greats, don't like listening to their, no quoting themselves. We're not that self-involved. Like many greats, as I say. So go and watch it. The accounts are constantly speaking about him being dissed for his blackness. They're constantly saying, "Why are you so black? Why are you so? This guy is so black." And again, they make that blackness proximal to ugliness. They constantly call him black and ugly. So it's a shame that somebody who had to fight for his right as a human being to exist in that white space, okay, and overcame that prejudice, now you're going to retrospectively pretend that wasn't part of his story. This is why I hate doing this. This is why it's very hard when you're looking at Black history not to actually develop a chip on your shoulder, because this is what these people do. And again, it's not all white folk, okay? All right, so show your breaches. People who are out there looking to put me in a box of I don't know what box they're looking to put me, some genocidal maniac. I don't know. No, it's not like that. I know everybody, there's good and bad in everybody, but for the most part, for amongst those that control the narrative, for the most part, this is what they do. They are dogged and dogmatic in saying, no, 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 no. You keep your little square of earth, okay? You didn't achieve anything till we came to you. People that look like you didn't go anywhere, do anything, achieve anything, not on your continent and not outside of it, till we came to you. They're so dogged in that narrative. And so it's hard to not to develop a chip on your shoulder when you're researching this stuff. Okay, so this is a guy who suffered to prove himself beyond the color of his skin. And now that he's done that, a few hundreds of years later, you want to say that that wasn't a thing. That's evil, man. That's evil. That's the height of evil. Chat, who disagrees? Let me know. Let me know who disagrees. I won't block you. Just tell me. Just give me your reason. That not the height of evil? Are you listening to this? Are you of a Caucasian extraction? Is that not the height of evil? Why would you do that? Why? You done destroyed the man in his life, made him fight for every little thing, every inch. And now you want to write a story. You want to pretend that that didn't even exist. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So now you have an account from a person called Alexandre Lenoir, who describes the mausoleum, okay, in a cathedral in France. Okay. And here he talks about I can't really read this, I don't want to butcher it. Petit taillé, mes forts, l'épaule large, les bras nerveux, uh, gross, you can see the word there, big. Lèvres, I still remember a bit of GCSE French. Lips, he's talking about his lips there. So we're not just talking about color now. We're not talking about color of skin now. This is supposed to be him at the bottom. This is a woodcut. This is a sort of a reconstruction of what he's supposed to look like. This is supposed to be what is at the cathedral today. However, The mausoleum was heavily damaged during the French Revolution. So even the mausoleum, even this as it stands today, is a reconstruction, I do believe. Okay? This is a reconstruction. Okay? But because as described, this man, Alexandre Lenoir, says this. What he's saying, um, let's look that up in French. Oh, this is long, right? I translated this earlier, so you're gonna have to take my word for it. You can pause when you're watching this back and try and do the translation yourself. But I believe the translation is he Guesclin was depicted as he is seen in his statue, small in stature, but strong, broad shoulders, sinewy arms. Okay, come on now. That does not mean he's black. We all know. If you know, you know. But hey, come on. There be muscular white folk too. His eyes were small, but lively and full of soul. His nose short and large, and his lips thick. His physiognomy had nothing pleasant about it. Do you hear that? His nose short and large, his lips thick. This is a description of the effigy on his tomb in the cathedral there in France before it was damaged and destroyed by the revolutionists or the revolters. His nose short and large, his lips lèvres. That's the French word that you can see there for lips. Thick. His physiognomy had nothing pleasant about it. And there are other accounts that say he was bandy-legged or thin-calved. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Okay, still all conjecture. Remember, bearing the lead is what that guy said. This here is evidence of what I'm saying about how blackness came to be synonymous with ugly in the medieval era. Again, I believe because you had people fighting the Moors constantly and who couldn't get a leg up. You didn't just have the Moors in Spain and southern France. You had them in parts of Italy, Italian islands. Um, uh, yeah, shout out to True Romance. If you know, the clip from True Romance where the guy talks about how the Moors did so much effing in Italy. They did so much effing in Italy that you Italians, that's why we call you guineas. That's why we call you guineas, because the Moors left their trace. Press one if you know the clip I'm talking about from True Romance. Anyway, but blackness and ugliness were synonymous, came to be synonymous. This is from the Midrash Rabbah, medieval text, rabbinical text. It says, and it came to pass when he was come near to enter into Egypt. This is how Jews perceived Egyptians, even in the Middle Ages now, which is to show you that Egypt has changed a lot, even in recent times. Go and look at old reels of Egypt from the 1900s, early 1900s, late 1800s. Black folk everywhere. Okay, if it wasn't in Cairo where you had the elites, the Ottoman derived elites, they pretend that didn't happen. But the pashas that came into Egypt in the 1800s, they were all Ottomans. They were Ottoman governors of Egypt. They pretend like they've been one population throughout, and that we don't have record of this, of the genocide they did in Upper Egypt, in the Nubian regions, all across Egypt, to kick black people off their lands, their indigenous lands. They pretend like we don't know, that we can't read. Okay, but in the Middle Ages, this is what they were saying. This is how they were contextualizing things that happen in the Bible. And it came to pass when he was come near to enter into Egypt. She was with him all these years. Yet now he says to her, behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. The reason, however, is because the traveling takes a toll on one's beauty, blah, blah, blah. Right. We have traversed Aram Naharaim and Aram Nahor, and not found a woman as beautiful as you. This is Abraham talking to Sarah in the book of Genesis. This isn't what happened. This is their dramatization of it. So Abraham lies and he tells Sarah, because we're going into Egypt, that you're quite beautiful, you're fit, you are fit, wench. And these people never seen a woman as fine as you. It's actually in the word of God. And Abraham just got scared. He got scared. Um, he wanted to protect what was his, and he told Sarah to lie that Sarah was his sister, so that they wouldn't kill him to get to Sarah. So that they would come to him at least. It was a really pretty crappy thing for Abraham to do, you know, but he did it. But this is their dramatization of the event. Say, now that we are entering a country whose inhabitants are swarthy, the word there isn't swarthy, okay, it's black. It's black. They translated that in English to swarthy. It's black. Black and ugly. So this is a thing that's happening, particularly with amongst European Jews in the medieval era. They're approximating blackness with ugliness. Okay. So that's proof of that. So again, when you see Bertrand de Guesclin constantly referred to as ugly, 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 that's what's going on. This is from something called the Annals of Brittany, 1899. This was provided to me by the debunker, great researcher. And this is an entry in the Annals of Brittany. I think it's still extant today. It still goes on till today, this publication. This is an entry in 1899. It talks about the origin of the Saracen du Guesclin. Okay. On page 202, it says something quite interesting. I've translated it into into English. Sorry. I had actually the debunker did the translation for me, but I've also double checked it and manually copied it into Google Translate. It starts around the second line here. Descendre d'un roi sarracen qui peut être en nègre, nègre, nègre. You see that word there? Okay. All right, chat. Here we go. Get ready. Kieran, you're wrong for that. You're wrong for that. Uh, yeah, you're wrong. All right. Okay. So, translation of this says this. I'm reading off screen here. Um, what you're reading says, what you're seeing on screen says. Again, this is retrospectively trying to understand why Du Guesclin would have been described by contemporaries as black and as thick-lipped and as broad-nosed, cropped hair. This is a translation of the text from the French periodical Annals of Brittany. Okay, so cool. The motive of this deception is not difficult to unravel. Guillaume d'Ancenis believed he was enhancing the story. Okay, so this guy is saying basically that the person who originated the fable that Du Guesclin originated from the Moors, a member of the Du Guesclin clan, no pun intended, Guillaume d'Ancenis. The reason for him developing this myth is because it was exotic. It was it was noble to attach your heritage to the line of the Moors. The motive for this deception is not difficult to unravel. Guillaume d'Ancenis believed he was enhancing the glory of Du Guesclin and his family, to which he was related by ties of kinship. This may seem strange to modern readers. Descending, that's where you start to see that word descendra, descendra d'un roi sarracen. Descending from a Saracen or Moorish king who may have been a Negro would do nothing to flatter our vanity. Okay, the modern sensibilities of the Frenchman of the late night. Listen to the cheek. Listen to the cheek. The pure chicanery. Um, it would do nothing to flatter our vanity. Uh, we are today imbued with theories about racial superiority. So at least he's honest. At least this entrant, this person who's made this entry in the annals of Brittany is honest, and he said, "Look, it would do nothing to flatter us because today we are imbued with theories about racial superiority. But these theories or feelings are recent." So what you're reading there, uh, nous sommes trop imbues de théories sur la race, mais ces théories sont récentes. Elles datent d'un siècle à peine, pew, pew, pew. Pew, pew, pew. Right, that's what he's saying there. That's the translation. So again, at least and as late as the late 19th century, people are still saying, look, um, the idea of being closely related to Moors and black people, being a negative, is actually a recent phenomenon. So Anthony, when he made this theory, if he made up this theory about Guesclin's heritage coming from the Moors, he wouldn't be embarrassed by that. But I don't believe Anthony was making it up because he was just trying to glorify. He genuinely believed it. There must have been some truth to it. Okay. These are modern renditions of Du Guesclin. You can see they're at least trying not to, they're at least trying to give some credence. They're at least, they know that people can read, people know, like, people can go and find and dig these things out. So they've tried to give him a kind of I don't know what's going on here, some kind of bad sunburn, I don't know, he's been on a tanning bed for a bit too long. Okay. This is what they expect you to believe. We'll get to the direct quotes in a minute. There's something I want to get to before we finish. This is what they want us to believe. This is a very modern, and this hasn't been taken down. No, again, the nationalists, the French separatists who wanted to break away from France, they've not taken this statue down. They've not come back for this statue. Okay. Here are more recent. At least again, here we're making some attempt at being honest. We're giving him a bit of a tan. You see what we're doing there? Kind of, it was a tan Frenchman. But, I mean, the French were out in the sun. I mean, some of them were out in the sun. I mean, I know the term sun dodgers and everything, but come on. Some of these guys had seen the sun before. So to be a tan Frenchman is not what we're talking about. When people keep remarking on your blackness, can we stop patronizing the public? Can we start telling the children the truth? We're not talking about tanned Frenchmen. I'm just gonna leave this one there. I'm gonna let this one just stay for a bit. Chat. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is another whitewashing attempt. This is hilarious. This is just ridiculous. Okay, now let's start to see some more honest. This is a medieval. Now with this, I'm still suspicious. This is supposed to be Du Guesclin leading a company of Frenchmen begging the English, because he was at war with the English for long stretches of his military career during something known as the 100 Years' War. Look at his nose. Look at his full lips. I'm suspicious. We've seen it before. I had an image I wanted to present. I don't know what happened to it. But where you can see how hard they've gone to the extent to which somebody has gone to remove the color of a particular character from one of these manuscripts. So either this is correct and they he had no color in this original image, because I don't know, for artistic effect or consistency, you wanted everyone to look the same, but you can see what they've given him with his nose. Okay, or after the fact, this has been, modified greatly. Now, that again, if you're still wondering why that might be at this late stage in the game, what are we, 2 hours into this? You've not been paying attention. You've not been paying attention. Okay, not saying that's what's happened, but if you're acting like this could not have, this isn't some kind of possibility, remote possibility, then you're either very hard of hearing or you got another agenda. Okay, here we have Du Guesclin being made Constable of France. Pay attention to his features. Even if uniformly you have the same skin tone across characters here, across the individuals who feature in this painting, even if you have that, you can't deny features are very different here. Okay, nothing to see. This, I'm convinced, I'm almost convinced that this has been damaged. Professor Onya Kanubia has been on my channel before, and I hope to have him on again at some time in the near future. Brilliant, brilliant man. He has told me of going into the archives. He's a professor now. Going into the archives to look for records of people that other other accounts confirm, contemporaneous accounts confirm were black people living in England. And he has gone to look at other accounts that give a fuller story, a fuller account of their time and achievements in England in the 1600s. Quite an important family, you know, semi-important. We're not talking nobility, but we're talking somebody that potentially, we're talking middle class, okay, a business owner, landed possibly, whose black daughter is then marrying because she's pretty, beautiful, desired, is then eventually being married off into some white family. And Professor Onyekunubi has gone in to look into this, only to find that in the books that he's trying to research, in the archives he's trying to get to, and he gets them, he opens these dusty books up, the page that he needs, chat, you need to listen to this, the page that he needs has been cut out, neatly cut out with a pair of scissors. Kieran says he remembers that stream. Thank you, Kieran. He says he saw a scissors. He saw a very fine sort of cut through the page, couple of pages. So he doesn't know what family that black girl married into. Doesn't know. He says this isn't just a one-off thing. You know, he has access as an academic. You know, he has access to things that I can never see because I just I can't pay the fees that I need to get into these libraries and these archives. But he said that. He said he's seen that, and the family, I think the name was Jet, which is a callback to the blackness of the family. That's not their original name, but this is the name that they were given, and this is the name that stuck, so it became a family name. So if you look up, if you see anyone with the name of Jet, Jett, in Europe, or with from a European extraction, and I've looked into this, it's very likely they trace their name back to that family. that semi prominent family in England at the time, Jetto, I think it was. There are jetties, or sorry, Jettos in France, closely related. A very sort of high class moneyed family in France today. But you trace them back and you get snipped out pages. So when what you're looking at on the screen, for me, especially what I've seen and heard, I'm zooming in deliberately. Something's like the coloration around his neck just dropping off. It just looks sketchy to me. It looks very sketchy to me. Let me know if I'm barking up the wrong tree, guys. I'm fair enough if you think I'm barking up the wrong tree, even if you're normally on side. Just let me know. Let me know. But then we're here. Chat, what do you see? Tell me I'm not looking at a black man. Combine with the accounts. Combine with the accounts. So if the accounts say we're looking at a black man, why why isn't this represented here? Why is it only represented in his features? Either stylistically they wanted uniformity, or either at the time it was just uncouth. You done made the man feel so insecure about his blackness. He doesn't want you painting him black. So just can you just leave me a quarter of a tone, a half a shade, um, colored from everyone else in the painting? But please, I've had enough of this. I'm black, I'm black, I'm black and ugly. Just paint me the same as everyone else. So all we have euphemistically are his features here, which look distinctly different to the other people, other individuals in this painting. Otherwise, this is a black man being made constable of France. This is like being knighted. This is like a high honor, the highest honor. Okay, right. Let's keep going. Chat. This is one of the oldest representations of Bertrand du Guesclin. Look at the man on your screen, kneeling to receive that sword that makes him the Constable of France. Chat, look at that. Look at that man. Look at him. You can tell he's different to everyone around him. Do I need to zoom in? There you go. You can tell he's different. We're near the end. Remember what I was accused of? Covering the lead. Covering the lead. The biographer of Du Guesclin is a man called Cuvelier. Now, he's known to, yeah, he's just known as the go-to for the Du Guesclin story. This is a translation. This is a translation of his work that you're going to see on your screen. If you've not been paying attention all live, all stream, please make sure you're paying attention in these last few minutes. Okay. To begin our fine romance, I'll tell you of the noble Bertrand's origins. As is well known, he was born in Brittany, 6 leagues from the worthy city of Rennes at La Motte Brune, where a great castle stands. Renaud du Guesclin was father of the child by a well-born and most gentle lady. But this child I speak of, I believe there was none so ugly, from Ren to Dinan, however you say it. None so ugly, snub nosed. Listen to what they talk about. Listen to how this man was spoken about, even by his biographer in his life. Biographers are meant to be on your side. Man being called ugly from Ren to Dinan, snub nosed, way faced. Let's look up what way faced is. Because way faced, guys, has a specific meaning. Okay. Having a pale, white, or sickly face, often due to fear, illness, or shock. That's unambiguous. Let me present the screen so you guys can see that. I want you to see this. This is the translation of Cuvelier's work in French. Way-faced, having a pale, white, or sickly face, often due to fear, illness, or shock. You all see that? Press 1. Let me know. Press 1. Okay, if you see that, let's go. I need 1. Thank you, Kieran. I can always trust on you or rely on you. I can always trust you and rely on you. All right. Anyone else? You all see that? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, here we go. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Way-faced is what this translator says. I'll get you the name of the translator in a minute. Way-faced, puny, wretched, his father and mother loathed him so that they often heartily wished him dead or drowned in a rushing river. Stupid, miserable wretch, they called him. So spurned and shunned he was that the squires and servants ignored him utterly. Now, I believe this part actually is true. I believe it's because he was an illegitimate child. Not because he was so ugly, but I believe he was an illegitimate child. Okay. I do believe there was already a Moorish heritage in his family, um, either on the mother's side or the father's side, because of what was going on in Europe at the time. When combined with infidelity, either from the father's side or the mother's side, meant that this boy came out nigh on black. Again, look at the records. There's a reason why Shakespeare wrote Othello. Othello wasn't the only one of its kind in the time. Ben Jonson, other writers and playwrights at the time were writing about Moors sleeping around with their women, and their women running after Moors and having illegitimate children with the Moors, either servants, traders, merchants, soldiers, mercenaries. This was going on. You're just not supposed to know about it. In the 16 or 1700s, the population of London was 1/5. 1/5. That's about, what's that? 20% black. Don't believe me? We'll be doing a live on that soon as well. 20% black. Or people that today would class as black. So this is not just a possibility when you consider all the evidence that we've seen tonight. This is a high likelihood. High likelihood. This individual who translated this goes by the name of go check out the video. Go check out the video I did on it if you want to find out the name of this individual. Here is the correct translation. You don't even need to know how to speak French. Chap, you don't even need to be a French speaker. Okay? You don't need to be a French speaker to understand, to grasp what you're about to see. What's the French for black, guys? Chat, let me know. What's the French word for black? I'm going to wrap this up now. But before I go on, I need people to tell me, I need some feedback. Do we all know the French word for black? If you do, type it. Thank you, Kieran. Thank you. Colombia Guapo says, yep, yep. I think so. I think you're correct. I don't know much French as you've witnessed this evening, but I know that. So we all agreed. Thank you, Colombia Guapo. Thank you, Kieran. Yeah, noir. Big Four Nation. Yes, noir. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ben. Noir. Here we go. Tout à commencement de notre de bon roman, vous direz la venue du noble Bertrand de Bretagne, Founé, Sévan, Liaquan, blah, 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 de la mort de Bron, that's the Bruins where he's from, in the castle, a great castle, Chastel Grand, Renaud de Guesclin, fou le père, l'enfant, dont mot gentils, dame, elle est blah, 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 semblant, mais l'enfant dont je dis et dont je vois parlant, je crois qu'il n'ont s'il a des reins à des noms. From that's rent to dinar. Not so ugly from rent to dinar. Camus et toi est noir. Camus et toi est noir. Let's look that up. I'm not even gonna bother. Chat, a modern translator. This is a modern translator. Kieran Grant says, how are you that black? A modern translator. Let me see if I can get this guy's name. Let's see if I can present it. Bonsoir à tous. MG, what's that mean? Are you a French speaker? Good evening to you. Is that what that means? Let me see if I can show you guys this. Where is it? Now my move. I'm gonna show something. Okay, slides and PDFs. Here we go. All right, can you all see this? Can you guys see this? How are you so black? Right. Is that what he's saying? Right. How are you so black? This guy translates it as way-faced. We're not just getting a translation that is false. We're getting a translation that is that is that is 180 degrees the opposite. How do you go from noir, how are you so black, to way-faced, white? We're not talking an old school check this out. Can you guys see that? The song of Bertrand du Guesclin. Yeah, I've done it. Just escape, man. Escape, move. translated by Nigel Bryant. You guys see that? You see that? So we started this live with somebody saying, way to bury the lead, accusing me of burying the lead. You see? Meanwhile, people are taking words like noir and completely changing, turning it upside down. Now, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what his motivation would be for taking this. So that when somebody now wants to know what these black MF, like, who are these guys, these Afrocentrists who are saying the pivotal figure in French chivalric history was a black man? Where are they getting this from? Let me check out this Cuvelier, the song of Bertrand du Guesclin. They turn to it, they see they see he was snub-nosed, way-faced. By the way, that phrase is old French. It's like old English. Camus et toi. Um, it's talking about his nose. Okay, it's talking about his nose. It's just an old. I had to really, really dig deep to get what that meant. Okay. Um. mm, let's see. Let's see if I can. Camus means pug-nosed. Yeah, means having a flat, short nose. Okay. All right. How are you so flat-nosed and black? And this guy, thinking nobody will ever catch him out, translates it as way-faced, snub-nosed, way-faced, puny, wretched, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you don't have a chip on your shoulder, you don't look any further. So, folks, what am I saying? Keep that chip on your shoulders. Keep that chip on your shoulder. Keep the bloody chip on your shoulder. Because no one else no one's gonna check this stuff for you. What's no one's gonna tell our stories for us the way it should be told. Even if they mean well, this is what's out there. This is what's out there, family. So I don't know if you're listening and you agreed with the guy at the beginning who said I'm trying to bury a lead, and you've been with me for the last 2.5 hours now. Am I still burying a lead? Am I the one burying the lead? Talk about bury the lead. Look what's happening right now with Nolan Wells. Chat. I can't get enough of this case. This is a history channel. I don't really want to be deviating. I feel like doing a live on that. But I can't get enough of what's happening with Nolan. I cannot believe that in 2026, year of our Lord, AD, something like Nolan Wells, the whole saga, the tragedy around that case. And you have this coon, this Officer Tatum guy, this character, this disgusting man that calls himself Officer Tatum, this fraud, is out here talking about, oh, this is all untoward racism. This is anti-white racism. Why have there not been? Why does it take black YouTubers to ask, why is there a bruise on Nolan Wells's neck? Why is the autopsy procedures not being followed properly? Why is there no record? Why are there no records? No texts, missing footage, pictures on Nolan Wells's phone? Why is it taking black YouTubers asking that question? Keep the chip on your shoulders, guys. Keep the chip on your shoulders. Keep the chip on your shoulders. Otherwise, anyway, listen. I'm done. I didn't mean for this to be this long, but I never mean for I never mean to be um to take as long as I do on this. Chat. Let me know if you've had a good time. Let me know if I've made my point. I want to one if you feel like I've made my point. I need to see ones. If you feel like I made my point with this, if I've laid it out well, just let me know, please. I'm not asking for a super chat. I'm just asking for one. I want to see ones. I want to see ones, guys. If you've been there from the beginning, let me know. Can I rest my case? Can I actually rest my case? Let me know if you're in here, you know, and you're not skin folk, but you're kinfolk. But you're kinfolk. You're not skin folk, but you're kinfolk. But you still agree. You still think, you know what? I came in there skeptical, but you made a good point. Let me know with a two. If that's you, not a black individual yourself, but you've heard what you've heard and you think, okay, there's something going on. This is wrong. You can put a two. Thank you for all the ones. Thank you for all the ones, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Still go and check out the video I did on this. Let's not forget. Let's not forget to check out the brother Kapruki's new entry, his new video. Yeah, give him some support, please. Not just even support. This ain't charity. It's a brilliant video, brilliant couple of videos. He's come out with recently. Not just because I feature in it, but yeah, it's just an amazing uh back to back that he's given us. So go on KAPROOKI and check out his Kapruki's newest content. Oh, thank you very much for that, RJ. I came late, but you honor this medieval ancestor. Thank you for your $2 super chat there. Thank you so much, bro. Yeah, guys, from Kush to Compton, it's been a blast, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you in the next one. I don't know whether the next one will be a video or another live, but I think I got a video in me. I think I got a video in me. There's something. Again, just keep supporting us. Just keep supporting us. But there is the next video lined up. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna have to. I might have to just leave the lives aside because I can't do both. I need to finish this research I got coming for the next video, which will blow your mind. Absolutely blow your mind. Absolutely blow your mind. The rabbit hole goes deeper, and it gets blacker and blacker. All right, from Kush to Compton, it should be your boy Trill Blap. Over and out, guys. Peace.